Hey folks, this is Rhykker. The Diablo 3 devs held a Q&A last night about the Necromancer, and we got to learn a little bit more about this upcoming class. If you just want to watch the hour-long Q&A video yourself, you can find that on official Blizzard channels. In this video, we'll cover and analyze what I feel to be the most important points. So right off the bat, Blizzard answered the most common questions by saying they would not be talking about pricing or release date in their Q&A. Last we heard, they said that the Necromancer would release in the second half of 2017. And if I were to estimate a price based on Blizzard's typical pricing models, I would say about $10 to $15. I think $20 would be too high, given you can buy Reaper of Souls right now for $20, and that's a full expansion. The Rise of the Necromancer character pack will be DLC, you have to pay for it to get it, and you will need Reaper of Souls to play the Necromancer pack. Blizzard is also planning a simultaneous release on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. So diving into the Q&A, Blizzard started by giving a recap of the big picture of what the Necromancer is.
Taking off from where the Diablo 2 Necromancer left us, he's a darkly themed pet and ranged magic class. That's kind of the basics. He's got some, his magic is themed around things such as the manipulation of blood. They are commanders of the dead, and you can expect to have a lot of pet options. Some of the kind of big twists that we have here is that we want the pets to feel like something that's active, that you have control over. They're not passive pets that sort of run around on their own and do their own thing. The stuff that we've showed at BlizzCon and leading up to today, what we've kind of found is the class is shaping up to be something that's really fun and exciting and feels very fresh and new for Diablo, and we can't wait to finish it and get it into your hands.
They went on to explain how the Necromancer will differ from the Witch Doctor, because it's an obvious concern. The Witch Doctor was basically the Necromancer of Diablo 3. It's a pet class, it had a lot of the same skills or toolkits or feel of the Necromancer from D2, and people were concerned that the two might not be different enough.
One way is thematically, right? We've got some different themes on the Necromancer than the Witch Doctor. So blood and bone are magic themes that just haven't appeared in any other class. It's a much darker themed character overall. If you think about the Witch Doctor, there are a lot of darkly themed things, but there's also a whimsical side to the Witch Doctor, and there will not be any whimsical takes on anything in the Necro. It's going to be very serious, very gritty. Then from a gameplay standpoint, we're doing some very different things with the pets in that all of them are controllable to some degree, that you get to tell them either where to attack, what to focus on, where you want them. You get to move them around a little bit. And then, so that just feels very different compared to Witch Doctor pets, which are pretty much fire and forget. You know, you spawn them and then they go off and do their thing and you don't really pay attention to them anymore. In that sense, they're kind of inconsequential to you as a player. And then recently we started to get into this idea of messing around with different resource models. Looking at the corpses, for instance, we have abilities that require corpses in order to function. And that's something that's very different than what the Witch Doctor uses, which is just mana. And then Essence functions in a slightly different way. And then we even have some skills that are requiring or have a blood cost associated with them now. And so all that really adds up to a very, very different play experience.
One of the things we wanted to do to differentiate the Witch Doctor and the Necro, and to reinforce this idea of being the commander of the dead, was to give you more direct control over your minions and your pets. We've sort of been expressing that by making a lot of the pet skills very active, passive oriented, where equipping the skill will give you the pets in many cases, and then activating the skill will in some way, shape, or form direct your pet's attention. So in the case of the stuff we showed at BlizzCon, Command Skeleton, if you have it on your bar, skeletons, you have skeletons, that's a thing. And then if you activate the ability for a cost, you can tell your pets, like, go murder that guy. And they will go murder that guy. And then the golems that we've been developing are similar, like when the skill is on your bar, you have a golem. And then the different golems, depending on which golem you're using, when you activate the ability, they'll go to the location that you commanded them to and do some cool thing.
I got to try out the Necromancer at BlizzCon 2016. You can check out my video in which I talk about my experience, but basically, It did not feel like the Witch Doctor. The Necromancer felt completely different. It was awesome to have active control of your pets. I loved the Diablo 3 Necromancer, how it's shaping up, and I was a big fan of the D2 Necro. That was my first love, and the D3 Necro feels like the D2 Necro dialed up to 11. Now you'll note that they said the word essence. Essence is the Necromancer's mana. It's its proper resource in the resource globe, but the Necromancer will also be using health, its own health, as a resource. In other words, it'll sacrifice health to cast a spell or something. And it'll introduce a completely new mechanic to the game, a new resource in the form of corpses, which Blizzard went on to explain a bit more here.
So corpses for D3 and the way Necromancers work are different than how they work in D2. In D2, when things die, they just left a corpse. D3 has never left corpses. In fact, usually you just knock things right off the screen or disintegrate them. So we had to invent a corpse mechanic. So now whenever anyone in a game with Necromancer kills a creature, agnostic of the body of the thing, whether it flew off the screen or got disintegrated, there will be a corpse or a pile of goo that you can then use to use your corpse-related skills.
If you played Diablo 2, you know that the Necromancer would summon a skeleton, summon a zombie from dead corpses of monsters. There was even a revive skill in which you would pick a dead enemy and choose to specifically revive that enemy. Now, if you've played Diablo 3, which you probably have if you're watching this, then you know that you can get a ton of corpses on the floor, or rather, you would expect there to be a ton of corpses because you're killing so many enemies. And the D3 devs decided to take a different approach with handling corpses by making what they called a universal corpse, which they go on to explain here.
Diablo 3 is a very frenetic game when it comes to the gameplay, so like recognizability, I know, was one of the things that we kind of had to focus on, because otherwise, you know, like a Mallet Lord would be a totally different corpse from like a Lacuni. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So this is where we settled on. By the way, some of these problems weren't answerable with art. Sometimes the answer is to change the way the mechanics work. So, settling on the idea that there was a universal corpse was one of the first kind of master strokes that will like, okay, now we don't have to build a unique piece of art for every monster, and then relaxing the way a lot of the skills work so that you're not interested in picking one corpse out over another. You know, they're not. We made them less precious to you as a player. Like this one I gotta save it. I gotta use just this one just the right way. So we kind of just loosened a lot of the gameplay constraints there, which made the players relax around wanting to know exactly where every corpse was at all times.
Yeah.
And that eased the burden of the art for us and let us go back to making something that was a little simpler, a little easier.
All right. I have one more corpse-related question, and the only reason I bring this up is I think I saw it on Reddit somewhere. Was this was feedback from the BlizzCon build? Was if you're building your Necromancer around using these corpse-based skills, and you get to the Rift Guardian, and they don't have minions, what do you do? Because you're gonna run out of corpses.
You die.
So,
I love Travis Day.
so what do you do? Like, is there a way to reconcile that?
There will be ways to reconcile that probably would force us maybe to announce things that we're not ready to talk about.
We don't have to announce anything, but like...
Aw, Brandy.
But it's
there will
something
be
we're
ways.
thinking about,
yes,
right?
absolutely. This has come up a lot in gameplay tests, which people will say, hey, this is great when I've got lots of monsters, and in this one particular case or another, I didn't feel like I had all the tools. And so we're keeping that in mind, and we've got plans for that.
They went on to talk about how much of the D2 Necromancer would be in the D3 Necromancer.
Yeah, so I personally used to play a lot of Necromancer in D2, so I have a lot of fond memories. And I think a lot of the people on the team do. We really used the Diablo 2 Necromancer as sort of a jumping off point, and sort of have tried to adapt a lot of the skills that people might be familiar with and the themes and bring them into D3 in a way that makes sense. So you see a lot of familiar themes from D2, like corpse explosion, curses, golems, skeletons, skeletal mages, things like that.
Blizzard confirmed that the Necromancer Revive skill will make it into Diablo 3, and I didn't realize I have to explain what this is. I was following along in the Q&A chat, and people kept asking, well, how's Revive going to work in hardcore? So Revive isn't a skill in which you revive yourself or a teammate. You revive a monster to fight for you.
And Revive will be a skill, and it will have 5 runes, so there will be 6 versions of it.
And it seems like Blizzard is really psyched about the Revive skill.
Necromancer's Revive was one of my favorite skills from Diablo 2. It's a massive undertaking, but it is really cool and it's shaping up really well. So we definitely plan on bringing Revive forward.
It's amazing. It is so good. It's a Zoomancer's dream as a skill.
Blizzard said that the development of the female Necromancer is coming along well, and they had this to say, suggesting that we can expect a female Necromancer reveal within the next few months.
I think if you just sort of stay tuned over the next few months, that we'll have something to show you.
Blizzard explained that the Necromancer will not be poison themed. They're leaving poison for the Witch Doctor, and I found their reasoning about it a little interesting. At first I was like, well, but Poison Nova, that's like iconic Necromancer, but hear what they had to say.
So we thought a lot about the poison skills very early on, and the easy answer would be, Witch Doctors have a poison, we want to push them apart, so no poison on the Necro. But there's really more to it. I think if we felt like there were some really awesome poison fantasies that we would express, we would probably make room for it. But I think the truth is that there really aren't that many cool poison ideas out there, and of the ones that there are, the Witch Doctor took them, right? Like shooting a poison dart, poison frogs, things like that. Those are maybe the most exciting expressions of things you can do with poison. And then adding to all of that, looking back at the original character, the poison tree really wasn't that exciting. If you think about it, if it wasn't for Poison Nova, I don't think anybody really would have built a Poison Necromancer. So I think the lesson there was, well, if we could get that Nova, that point-blank AoE gameplay into the Necromancer, then maybe we could just leave poison as a theme behind. And that's kind of where we're at right now, which is we're not really going to bring poison forward as a thematical driver for skill ideas.
So something I'm wondering is if instead of the Poison Nova, they might just have Blood Nova, since they're really focusing on a blood theme now for the Necromancer, and it just seems like an easy fix. They also confirmed that the Necromancer will have a melee build that will be viable.
We've actually got a lot of skills that have a very up-close and personal theme to them. We definitely want to be able to deliver on like the melee necromancers or close-range fighters.
Yeah, because if there's one thing that this game is lacking, it's definitely more melee builds. In all seriousness, though, they went on to explain that they want a variety of playstyles to be viable for the Necromancer. You could just be a pure Zoomancer with pets. Or you could have no pets at all and just be melee or just rely on like Nova damage and stuff. Curses and direct DPS. They did mention that dots, damage over time effects, will not be an integral part of the Necromancer toolkit, and this was in moving away from poison. When you think poison, you think dots. And because there's no poison, there's not really going to be dots. It's going to be mostly nukes. In other words, big single damage bursts. It's going to be pets, it's going to be cool utility spells. And this is because blood and bone are the main themes, not poison. Now, I found this interesting. They're not bringing Iron Maiden to the Necromancer, and listen to their reasoning. They basically said they didn't find it fun.
So there's no plans to bring Iron Maiden forward. I know whenever we would talk internally about the Necromancer and the curses and skills he used to have, Iron Maiden came up a lot. I even brought it up a lot. But contextually, that was through the lens of, yeah, I would summon my blood golem, and then I'd Iron Maiden everything, and I was invincible, which was awesome, but we don't want to sort of bring that particular style of gameplay back. And then separately, when talking about the curses that we're developing, or like, did we want to bring Iron Maiden or not, that just had a lot to do with like, well, what's the actual gameplay of Iron Maiden? Like, is Thorns fun? Is the gameplay of like casting a curse and then standing around waiting for things to punch you exciting? And we just decided there's cooler things we could do, and the curses are a lot more unique or distinct from each other than they were previously, and we just didn't feel there was a good place for that one.
They then spoke about what kind of weapons the Necromancer will wield, and in addition to what you're going to hear, it'll include both one-handed and two-handed scythes. Yeah,
so the Necro is going to have similar weapons to, I think, most of our ranged casters. They can use basically everything that isn't class specific or a bow or crossbow. Also, They're going to have their own class weapons and their own class offhands, and we're developing a suite of scythes for them presently. So they'll have the stuff you're used to, but then with scythes, because they're awesome.
The Necromancer will have golems. They showed the Blood Golem at BlizzCon, but there will be other types, and hear what they have to say here.
We've actually been working on the golems, trying to figure out which ones we like, what are the themes we want to use. Julian actually showed off one that was a work in progress at BlizzCon with the Blood Golem, because he's freaking cool, so we're going to bring him forward. And we're actually trying to make up a bunch of new golem types that we think match D3's thematic for the class, as opposed to the D2 ones. So we're definitely not bringing forward all the golems that people are used to, but we hope you're excited with the ones that they do have.
At first, I thought that the different golem types would just be different runes of the golem skill, but then when they answered this question here about how many golem types there will be, I think this points more towards having different skills for the different golem types, and maybe it being something like a wizard and the wizard's shields, where you can only have one active at a time, but then different runes to modify it, because we're expecting a total of 4 to 5 golem types. Here's them answering how many golems to expect.
Currently,
Currently,
we have 3 worked out,
right.
with room for 1 or 2 more. So between 4 and 5 when it's all done. It will be 4 or 5.
If the different golem types were just runes of the golem, in the same way as the gargantuan for the witch doctor, for instance, then you would know exactly how many types of golems there would be. Blizzard went on to talk about how there will be a variety of pets to choose from. Some will be permanent, others will just last for a short duration, and there will be both skeletal archers and skeletal mages.
Yeah, we did have mages in the BlizzCon build. They were like,
Yeah, we did.
They were part of.
I forgot we did, because
Yeah.
we did have them. We have sort of redefined their role a bit from what they were in the BlizzCon build. They're a lot cooler now, and they'll be even cooler before you guys see them again.
Something I find really interesting is how they're making blood a really strong theme of the Diablo 3 Necromancer. Listen to this.
Blood is certainly one of the strong themes. When we first started talking about like what were the cool things that we liked about D2 Necromancers and what did we want to bring forward, Blood Golem was one of the first things that came up all the time, and we started talking about that, like, yeah, Blood Golem was awesome, and it was like, man, that's the only blood skill they had. But blood magic, there's like this really strong thematic and fantasy behind that, and like using your own blood as like a means to channel magic. And we've started exploring and trying to flesh that out more, but that is certainly like a strong theme of the new Necromancer for Diablo 3.
One reason I find this so interesting is that a couple years ago on my stream, we were talking about what new class to expect to come to Diablo 3, and we were speculating about a Blood Mage that would use its own vitality as a source of casting its spells, and very similar to how the Necro is shaping up here. You can have a listen to that old video if you just follow this link here. But listen here as the devs tackle the question, will the Necromancer be able to take away its own hit points to deal damage?
Yeah, that is the plan, in fact. We didn't show anything like that at BlizzCon yet, and we don't have obviously anything to show today, but we started to mess around with that when we got back to the offices, and it's turned into quite a thing. It kind of reinforces an entire playstyle, so to speak, and opened up the avenue for new skill ideas that we really didn't have before. So, yeah, expect to see that show up in a big way.
Blizzard confirmed that the Decrepify curse that the Necro had in D2 will be in D3. They had it in the D3 demo, and they elaborate more on its feel in this answer here.
It was, in fact, part of the BlizzCon demo.
Mm-hmm.
When we started talking about curses, and necromancers, and started fleshing out like the starting skills, one of the ones we just were like, what is a cool curse that you just feel the second you cast it, it has impact and you get it? And Decrepify is the one we went to. It's really good. It's a massive snare. It also debuffs their damage. It's certainly not for everyone's playstyle, but like people in hardcore or like pushing really difficult greater rifts, it'll be great for. We're working on a lot of runes for skills right now, and Decrepify's got some really cool ones. A lot of utilitarian effects. So yeah, they'll be Decrepify.
The team was asked if the Necromancer will have an ultimate form like Wrath of the Berserker for the Barbarian or Archon for the Wizard, and they said they don't really have any plans to do that, and they further gave an answer that I thought was really great, that they don't design with a checklist in mind, and just have a listen here.
And I mean, we don't generally take that approach. Like, we don't want to design to a checklist of things, because that would just make all our classes feel the same, right? Like, we don't go, all right, everyone needs to have a super form and a this and a that and a this other. Like, we just go, what's cool? Like, when I think Necromancer, what do I think? I think massive army, and I think cool golems and bone and blood and curses, corpse skills, blowing up corpses are awesome, and really just haven't found the need for anything like that for this class.
Blizzard was asked if the Necromancer in D3 will be the same Necromancer that you meet during the campaign in the quests, and the answer is no, it will be a completely unique character. This way, you could explain why there's a male and female version as well. Blizzard was also asked if the Necromancer would be a DPS or a support class, and the real answer here is that Blizzard never develops a D3 class to be support. They want every class to be DPS. That said, they really reinforced how strong curses are, and how they definitely can see support builds focused around curses. The devs were asked an interesting question about whether the Necro will make it into the group meta, and this is what they had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely hope so. I think there's a lot of room for a lot of different classes. I think the Necro has a lot of really unique mechanics, and I think that curses certainly are a area where, when I think of the kind of group dynamics that usually form for the high-end meta grift pushing, there's usually like the guy who's doing the really support-like thing, and Necro's curses are really powerful, and they help the whole group, so hopefully, yeah, I hope so.
I mean, at the same time, it sounds like they've got, because they have this whole commander of the undead thing going, and also lots of just direct damage, they could flip that role too and be one of the main damage dealers in the group too. So.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's hope.
Let's hope, right. So
So here's the bottom line. The meta is not determined by Blizzard. The meta is determined by the community. And Blizzard could try to have an idea of what will become meta, but at the end of the day, when it's handed off to the hands of the pro players that are going to be grinding the top tier content, they're the ones who are going to find the most broken, OP, powerful combinations. Blizzard can try to have an idea of things, and this is why Travis was sort of evasive in his answer of, well, let's hope they can be DPS, because frankly, he doesn't know. They can't know. The way the group meta works is the most powerful DPS build will be the DPS in the group meta. He's hoping that all the curse options will make Necromancer viable support, but as for it being DPS, that's just going to determine. Is the Necromancer going to be the most OP DPS build? Probably, because it's going to be the new class and Blizzard's going to want us to buy it, so they'll probably overtune it a little bit. I mean, no one's going to want to buy the class if it's underpowered, but ultimately they will be striving for balance, and it's only once the community gets a hold of it that we'll find out. The Necro might also be able to support through healing the group. Blizzard was asked if the Necro, through casting those spells that require a health cost, if he has some way of sort of life leeching, of gaining health back from enemies, and even giving that on, passing that on to the group, and this is what Blizzard had to say.
We have, since blood is a very strong theme on the class now, a lot of the blood skills currently are set up to cost health in addition to the essence cost. Part of making that work is also giving the class enough tools to be able to compensate for the fact that he's now spending health sometimes, depending on your build. So he certainly has a lot of recoup healing mechanics built in. Additionally, some of those will also benefit your group, yeah.
Blizzard did confirm that the Necromancer will launch with 4 class sets, just like every other class, though they're not currently sure what those sets will do. They also confirmed that there will be a new set dungeon for each of the new sets. Now, something that they did not cover is how set wings will be handled. Currently, you get a pair of wings for mastering every single set dungeon. Once 4 new set dungeons are added, what's going to happen? How Blizzard decides to handle this could potentially upset some players. One way to handle it would be that, from now on, you have to master the additional 4 sets in order to get the wings, thus making it better for people, or easier for people who don't buy the DLC. And that would encourage people to get the wings before buying the DLC. Another way to tackle it would be to change the requirements to only master 24 of the 28, but then that does make it a little bit awkward. Another way to handle it would be to introduce a new set of wings for mastering the 24 plus the 4 additional Necromancer set dungeons. And hey, remember those Adria wings that made it into the game in the PTR at some point and were really cool, but then were taken out under mysterious circumstances? Those seem pretty Necromancer themed, don't they? Now, what I want to end with here is just showing how passionate these guys are about working on the Necromancer.
Honestly, I was just really excited when we finally said, we're going to do the Necromancer. Because we had, like, for the last, I don't even know how long, we've always had, like, team brainstorms and, like, what do people want to work on? Let's talk about it with the team. And every single time, we're like, Necromancer. I want to make Necromancer. Can I make the Necromancer? So when the team finally said, like, we're going to make the Necromancer, like, dibs. Like, I want to do it. I want to do Necromancer. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun. It's been very cool trying to take the, like, really awesome iconic stuff that I used to love myself and try to reimagine it. Because even when I think about, like, the D2 Necro and what that gameplay actually was and what that experience was like Blood Golem and Iron Maiden just being like, lol, I'm invincible, or like how did Corpse Explode work, or reimagining like the skeleton army, so like trying to take a lot of the really bad problems, because I remember my first Necromancer in D2, I probably built the way most people would build a Necromancer, which is like, dude, skeletons are awesome, I'm gonna make a ton of skeletons. I'm like, this game's easy, yeah, and then I got to like Nightmare, and the first monster that cast an AE spell killed all my skeletons. I was like, well, I don't have 30 corpses to make 30 more skeletons. I guess I lose. Time to recreate my guy. So, like, trying to take a lot of those problems that the character had and sort of adapt them to the game we have, while also differentiating it from the existing classes, and making sure he just has a lot of really unique things that aren't the same as other characters. It's just, the whole experience has been a ton of fun. I'm really excited to get it out to the audience and hear what people think when we're done.
I was really astounded by how on point Travis was here. That was my exact experience, my exact first experience with Diablo 2. I made a skeleton necromancer and he was awesome until at some point he was complete garbage, and it's like, well, gotta make a new character. And Julian as well is clearly super passionate about this project.
Well, you know, like I remember when we decided, I think I was about to go on vacation. So it was like the day before I'm going on vacation, and we're like, yes, we're doing it. And I remember saying, I would like to be involved in that. I would like to run the team. I would like to be all over that. And I left, and I thought, I wonder if everybody really heard me. I wonder if I really got my point across. So I immediately started sending emails
on vacation
while I'm on vacation, like, in case I didn't make it absolutely clear how much I want to work on this. And then somebody didn't email me back. I'm like, uh-oh.
Someone else
maybe
grab it from me?
did they not get the email? Because I'm not getting it. So, like, yeah. So I'm flooding people with emails from, yes, like, I want in. That shows you some, like, the excitement level. And I think that the whole team shares it. And, everything that we're doing is really kind of amazing. I'm biased. I'm a Necro fan. I played a lot of it. It's probably going to maybe be the best one. Like,
right?
I'm not supposed to have favorites. I'm not. But
it's probably okay to have a favorite.
But I'm having a favorite.
Like, I have a favorite.
This
for
is
sure.
good. For sure. I love it. But if I had to pick a specific thing though that I'm excited about, we have kind of doubled down a little bit on the golems and decided that there's a lot of, like, obviously you heard about Revive. That's a marquee skill. We're spending a lot of effort, but we're also spending a lot of particular thematic art and presentation effort around the golems and trying to make sure that they are also like a really big highlight point. And so I think you saw a little bit of that in the Blood Golem announcement, and when we have the other golems to announce, I think you're going to see that reflected in them as well.
The devs said that we can expect more updates to come, though they have no ATA on that. And Brandy also would like to work with Julian to make a Golem blog in the future. The devs also expressed that they enjoy communicating with the community in this way. However, they need to find the balance between working on the game and communicating.
If we would do this more, but then we wouldn't be able to finish it in time to get it to y'all without you lynching us. So we're gonna do less of this and more making the character. But it's been really exciting.
Well, wherever we can squeeze one in.
No, I love doing this stuff. Totally
Absolutely.
love it.
No, it's been great.
Now, this whole Q&A was a big pleasant surprise, because I think if there's one thing that the Diablo 3 community really wants from Blizzard is more communication. And it could be tough to find that right balance between communication and just diligently working away on getting the content ready. And I feel that the community gets most upset when they feel there's a lack of communication from the devs. So I really like that this Q&A happened. I hope we continue to see things not necessarily of this scope, but that continued open line of communication. I know in the Overwatch community, Jeff Kaplan, the game director, is almost in constant communication with the community. They're doing a fantastic job on that, and the community super appreciates the developers, and there's basically no bad feelings towards them. And now every community is different and every dev team is different, but hopefully we're moving in the right direction here with the D3 team. And that wraps up this video. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Do you like the direction that the D3 Necromancer is taking? Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders to keep up with Diablo 3.